And
Hello,
live.
hello. Is everyone joining us? If we can get a comment in the chat box to make sure you can see and hear all of us. Hello, my name is Carl. I've been a member of the EDI Entrepreneurial Development Institute for a while now, and yeah, it's been interesting, amazing. A bit about me: I've been in a touring band for 15 years and didn't have an entrepreneurial bone in my body at all. I just played music, got drunk most of the time, had no ambitions other than to just stay alive. And then that all changed about just under 2 years ago. I kind of wanted to do something more. I wanted to start something. I didn't know what. I had hundreds of ideas in my head just floating around, but I didn't know how to make sense of any of them, what to do with any of them. And I was lost and didn't know what to do. And I had the great fortune of joining Errol live in an event in London, and it just proceeded from there. We had an amazing conversation and we kept in touch, and he helped me over time see what I needed to see. I was starting to get clarity. I was starting to make sense of all these ideas, and I started to be able to put them into action. And as it stands now, I've actually reached the opposite end of this scale. Now I've got too many opportunities and businesses, and now Errol's helping me scale back down to picking the best ones, which is a very good, fortunate situation to be in. I never thought I'd be in this kind of situation, but it's all down to Errol. It's been a huge pleasure getting to know him and getting to be part of the EDI. So I'm just going to kick things off. I'm going to introduce Errol, and I'm also going to introduce Sebastian, who's been a member of the EDI. I've had the pleasure of knowing him for a few months now. He's very bright, very smart. A pleasure to talk to and listen to, and yeah, it's going to be a very good webinar indeed. So, hello, Errol.
Hi,
Sebastian.
Hi, Carl. Thank you very much for the introduction, because I really appreciate getting a chance to have the opportunity to work with you. You've been one of the inspirations for the group. As a matter of fact, the way our group started and founded is for about 3 years now, I've really been wanting to work on something to really be able to give back. I've been very fortunate in my life. I've had a lot of good luck. I've had a lot of good fortune. And I've had a lot of good people that I've worked with, learned from, trained, and been trained by. And as we develop our institute, what I wanted to do is develop 100 people on a Facebook group, which we're really doing, Sebastian, thanks to you and to Carl. We're basically through referral, and I get to work personally with this group. And my role is as an educator. I've always wanted to be a teacher. In my my bio, I say I think the teacher is the most undervalued asset in society, and I believe we all should be teachers, and I believe we all should be students. And I've really gotten the opportunity to take this role as a teacher and a student. And I must tell you, boy, have I learned from my group. And I am so proud. We have put together a group of positive people, and we create a positive environment amongst ourselves and a network amongst ourselves where we are free to say what we need to say, to open up, and also to be weak when we need to be weak and ask for help and strength. And we have done that. It's funny, this last month I've had 2 people reach out that, and you know, the funny thing is, and I started studying this, when you have entrepreneurialism or any goal you want to set, you always have a why. why you want it, right, Sebastian? And then you have a how. And we'll study this with Sebastian here. And I've always had that too. And a lot of times you have to go back and question the why again, don't you? And so what I'd like to do is I'd really like to let things unfold and show you what we're doing with this, because also over the last few months, we have had some tremendous successes. And I mean people that have really changed their lives, not only economically, which is a nice thing to do, but their own personal environment and changing really who they are and moving forward and finding out, I would say, finding their power, finding what they can really create and accomplish, and finding their limitations were limitations they had been putting on themselves, and that when they started breaking those down, things started happening. People started developing. Now, the reason for entrepreneurialism is simple. And we have very simple definitions. I'm a very simple guy. I try to oversimplify things if I can. And a simple explanation or interpretation of an entrepreneur is a person that is independent. We are independent of job. We are now contributing to society instead of taking from society. The old story, give me fish, I'll eat for a day. Teach me to fish, and I'll eat for a lifetime. And as entrepreneurs, we're learning how to fish. We've established through all of us, every person 100% has agreed that we did not get the tools to take care of and provide for ourselves in school. And we've had to learn them ourselves. And as we unfold today, for you new people that are guests, we would welcome you to join us. And to join us and take the journey from being a dependent to becoming independent. And the feeling of freedom in independence is unbelievable. And what our goal is to learn, establish, and develop real syllabuses where we have real information that we know works. I've used it for 50 years in my business and built businesses to some incredible heights. When we establish and teach and train, we will have an effect on society. And we want to do this in every country in the world and create community amongst ourselves so that we can identify that we are a team of entrepreneurs and we are willing to work together, to network together, to make a better life for ourselves. And as we make a better life for ourselves, a better life for others. And as we make a better life for others, a better life for our environment and our community, and ultimately the world. I was very fortunate to have met this gentleman I get to talk to now. He has been an inspiration to our group. Got a little silent the last little while because you've been working. I realize that, and sometimes we get too focused and we fall into our cubbyhole. So I'd like to introduce Sebastian. And Sebastian, would you tell everybody here your story and how the group has helped you? And then I have some questions for you.
So, hello everyone. My name is Sebastian, and I'm quite simple person. I've joined the institute a couple of months ago, and it was to a simple conversation with Carl. But also, strangely enough, well, the same message was being passed to me from Carl and from two other people. So when one person is saying something to you, you take notice. But if three people are saying the same message, you take it on board because it's valid. So I did took opportunity, and I've learned a lot. It's been a very, very busy period, but I've also found quite amazing group of people, people who have very different mindset, who have far better questions, and they simply look at life not from the perspective of difficulties, but from the perspective of opportunities. Their focus is very different. And also the vision is different, because if we're talking about vision, the vision is very simple: to make this world a better place, and by making you a better people. And it's a journey. It's a journey of discovery. It's a journey of self-discovery, and also it's a journey of contributing and serving others. That's what I've learned, and it's, in terms of entrepreneurship, it was a long journey. I came to this country around 11 years ago without knowing the language, without knowing ability to speak, and it took a while to really take on board what entrepreneurship is about, because you have to redefine your language, the phrase itself. For example, I have a really nice conversation yesterday with a taxi driver, and he mentioned the term of a job, and I couldn't relate to that anymore. The term simply does not fit in, because when you change your terminology, your concept of the world changes. So the terms where I, for example, changed I've changed the term of a job to a client. So there's no more job. There are clients or client that you're serving, and the more you serve on a fair exchange basis, and the more it follows you back, and it's a cycle, and it's continuing to be so. And you meet really wonderful souls along the way, and you redefine yourself every and each day. So that's the small part.
When you say you came 11 years ago, where did you come from?
I came from Poland, and it was, I don't know if it was accident. It was a situation where I saw a job advertisement literally on a metal pole, and it triggered my curiosity, because it was saying about opportunity to come to UK, and at the time I said, well, I'm gonna give it a go. I've never tried it, and it was simply about listening to opportunity. And what ended up as simply going to event ended up literally changing my life. And 11 years ago, I decided to take that opportunity, and everything had changed since then.
So your educational background, what is that?
It's originally I was a biologist, so I trained to be a biologist.
So did you have college?
I had college. I had 2 years of university in Poland, and I've stopped university and I've moved to UK. And after a couple of years, I started university again, and it was paid all from my own pocket. So I do appreciate the effort and extra hours and no sleep, and yeah, it was fun.
So when you went to university, you graduated with specific skills, but did they teach you how to take care of yourself in university?
Absolutely not. So even when we're talking about the skills, while the university, I've met some great people that I'm still friends with, really good friendships, and they didn't give me any skills that I use right now. If anything, if I would use the skills that I would learn at the university, that would damage all the opportunities that are coming in my way. because one thing what to remember is that university, at least when it comes to computer science, well, are talking about the world that doesn't exist. They're talking about, because businesses, when it comes to technology, they need all the top edge tools that gives them competitive edge, all the problem solving skills. But if we're talking about what they teach in university, the best programmers, the best architects, the best technologists, then they're not in universities, they're consultants. They're consulting, they're solving problems on a massive scale, on a global scale. And that's where I found my best mentors. And
they found see, the one thing that we've established, and I remember, if you do, I remember our first consulting call, and one of the things that has really developed since you and I have worked together is your confidence. Do you agree with that?
I do. And it wasn't there in the beginning. It wasn't, and there was a lot of fear, but it also depends how much gratitude you do have in life. And on every and each situation, to each and every person. So it really depends. And also public speaking skills that also really help. If there's one skill that I think everyone on this group needs to go through, it's learning how to do public speaking.
You know, it's very interesting because I still remember your first post. The first time you actually posted a video. Do you remember that?
I think so, yes.
And,
yeah, it was, yeah.
I'd like to go back and, you know, a lot of things that you're going to say today, Sebastian, and that you have experienced are what you coined are fears. Fears of not being good enough, fears of not knowing enough, fears of you don't have what it takes to achieve, and that comes from somewhere. And what we should talk about is, and what you've experienced through the group and through other people that you're helping now, is that all of us experience those fears. Isn't that correct?
That's correct, Will. And also there's ways to remove those fears, because it's not a coincidence what there are. You have to understand how the mind works and how mind is being programmed. And with today's tools, you can reprogram those limiting beliefs. So the fact is that, well, if I say to a person, oh, you don't have to fear that, it's not going to work, because there's a lot of years of conditioning and programming your mind in a certain way. So you have to unlearn those things, and there's tools available to help you. And over time, you let go of those limiting beliefs, and you target more of those limiting beliefs, well, that simply shape your mind in a different way, because it's a bit like a computer. You have programs running your brain, and many of those programs are absolutely unhelpful to magnificent way. So what do you do? You replace.
I always attributed the fact that when I was in school, if it wasn't for athletics and learning competitiveness and pride and teamwork, I would have had a great deal more problems than I had in school without it, because I was a dyslexic, and in the years that I was in grade school, dyslexia wasn't understood. So people looked upon me like I was stupid, and I felt I was stupid, because I couldn't get up and my dyslexia is with reading, and I couldn't get up and read the words, and people would laugh at me, and my self-esteem dropped. Entrepreneurialism deals with building your self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
It deals with building your independence. And for everybody that is out there listening to us, you have the ability. No matter what you say right now, you have the ability and the desire and the want and the ability inside yourself to create a program and a plan, which is, we'll talk about this in a minute,
Mm-hmm.
to achieve anything you want in your life. And all we have to do is, as you say, Sebastian, just change our thinking. And sometimes it is just a millichange, isn't it?
It is, well, but it is so crucial because it literally is all about thinking. And when you change your thinking, when you improve and constantly, it's not just you do it once, you do it every day. And even if you move only by little over a long period of time, it makes a huge difference.
When you were young, was your conditioning towards get a good job, have good security? What was the conditioning that you went through as a child?
So I was quite fortunate. Well, of course, well, if we're talking about conditioning, well, from my environment, well, it was as you said, well, get a job, well, go to university, well, have well, stability itself. But I was given freedom, well, to make my own choices and not to be judged by those choices. Whatever choices I would have to deal with consequences, but I would, it wouldn't be judged. It was simply gonna be, well, my decision, and that was always within. In my family, it was always being communicated. Make your own choices. If they're wrong, change them. But
now, did you have siblings when you grew up? Brothers, sisters?
I have two sisters, and they're absolutely amazing human beings. Strangely enough, well, two of them are psychologists. So we're always talking about the mind, how important it is, and how it works, because you really have to understand how the mind works, well, to be able to change it, to be able to improve it. But yeah, they're absolutely beautiful souls.
And where did you develop your entrepreneurialism? Where did it finally kick in, where you wanted to be, as you say, a consultant or independent versus working for someone else and having a job?
So it didn't start well overnight, but I do remember one particular day. I was working at the warehouse for years, and during my lunch breaks, well, I always was reading. So when other people had for lunch, well, I was always consuming books, and one of those books was actually Think and Grow Rich. And after that, I was speechless, and there's something awakened, because, and I only understood it after years, how that language of the book was structured, which was very interesting. And I remember buying eight of those books, well, to my colleagues, and simply trying to spread the knowledge. But this was the point where I started asking the questions: if there's more to life, if is there a different world, is there a different way of thinking? And I didn't know. I didn't know. I simply had let me investigate it, let me research. And it was only years after, when I started going to different business events, when I got to know a very different way of thinking, not thinking about dependence on the job, but how many people you're serving and the scale of your servitude. And many things had changed since then.
The interesting thing is, and a lot of people think this came from a different gentleman, but the phrase is, do what you have to do to be able to do what you want to do. And the interesting thing is, if you can get what you want by helping other people get what they want, is that a beautiful position to be in?
It is, well, and also it's win-win for all. And contributing to others people's life, it's very rewarding, and especially if you think about what the impact what you can do, and you can get addicted to it, and it's a good addiction to have. Addiction to help others, to see them succeed. And it could be a small thing. It could be as small, as a genuine smile, well, for, the person that gives you coffee, a conversation with a taxi driver, and giving him resources, well, to grow. It can be at each and every step along the way. And it doesn't have to be reciprocated, because the reciprocation comes, from the observation that you're helping someone, that their life is going to be better.
When you say you were working, what kind of work were you doing?
So in the past, well, it was manual work. So I was working in the warehouse, well, for years. And during that time, I was building my skills. I was building, well, my language skills. I also had the desire, well, to go university. So I was working during the night and studying during the day, and sleeping around, well, 3 hours during that period. But I had the desire. It all starts with desire. If you really want something, that there is nothing in the world that can stop you. And that was the case.
Chapter 2 of the book we love, because you and I have had some good discussions about the title that you've looked in. For those of you who are listening, if you haven't read a book by Napoleon Hill called Think and Grow Rich, it was written in 1937. It was authored by Napoleon Hill, and he penned it as a job working for Andrew Carnegie, then the richest man in the world, who wanted to know, why was there a difference between people who were successful and people who were not? And were there principles that successful people used that the other people did not? And there certainly are, aren't there?
Yes.
And we have created an environment in which the word "I can't" doesn't exist in our group, does it?
No.
Because if you want to, and if you, again, I'm going to use your words, have the desire, and just start with the want. I want a better life. I want a better life for myself. I want a better life for my family. What do I got to do? That is the starting point of your journey. And with the Entrepreneurial Development Institute, we want to try and create a structure so that you can build a better life for yourself. And in the syllabuses, the training, the teachings that we're learning now, and Sebastian, I can't tell you how much I've learned since we've not had conversation regularly, because you're busy passing the word now and teaching and training. But believe me, my friend, I need you, and I need your input as much as anybody's input to be able to move to the next level, because our goal, our international goal, is to develop this institute, which Sebastian is a founding member of. You are a founding member. And we want to develop this in every country in the world. And we want to grow to a group of 100 million people. We want to be able to network through ourselves. We want to have an open, positive environment for 100 million people. And we want to find a way to fund teaching entrepreneurialism to children for free. And the end mandate, my goal, my dream, is to do that. And in joining in on my dream, I urge you to fulfill your dreams. And the level of which you dream has moved, is constantly expanding, is it not, Sebastian?
It always will does. And it's interesting when you say it, because in the past, well, I dreamt small, and that will limit what the decisions and choices that I made. Also because I believe that was possible. And I guess right now, I don't know. Let me investigate it. What is well possible? So the vision expands as you grow, and when you develop your mind, when you interact with beautiful souls, I can only will describe it. That vision expands. And that vision will also comes from within. You realize how much you can give and contribute to other people's lives. And I guess there is nothing more rewarding to seeing people succeeding, and going through struggles, and at the same time succeeding in the end. And you can see that journey. You can see that they're trying, they're improving, and in the end they're reaching another level of understanding. And there's I can only say, well, for me, it's something that I do treasure a lot. And when someone says to you a genuine thank you, and there's no price on it. It's something that builds you up.
Do you know what I really appreciated what you just said was level of understanding, and that is about ourselves, is it not?
Yes.
And one of the things that we've often discussed is that anybody that I work with, I want them to advance at their pace. You don't have to go at my pace, but their pace. But also to expand, like you said, and you know what I talk about. There's no magic in what?
There's no magic in small dreams.
And the only limitation to your dreams, achieving your dreams, are self. And when you say, I don't have, and to anybody out there that's listening to us, when you say, I just don't have the ability, I'm not trained, I'm not taught, I'm a woman, I'm black, I have strikes against me, I've tried and I haven't been successful. That's just part of your journey. That's just part of the magic in expanding your mind, the magic in growing. And say, this week, I want to be a little better than I was last week. And I was talking to Carl just last week about there's no shame in slipping back, is there, Sebastian? There's no shame in taking a step back and reassessing.
No, there isn't. As long as you're progressing, as long as I guess you have to also reassess the plan itself, and also the resources that you have. But also, you don't change the vision. No, you still have the vision. You realign the path itself. The points how to get there.
And what we've discussed is, if your starting point of your journey, ladies and gentlemen, if your starting point is A, and your goal and desire, whatever it is that you want, is B, and it could be just a better life for me and my family. One of the things that I found is I don't think people really understand entrepreneurialism, because entrepreneurialism is just about being independent. It's about being able to take care of yourself and your family, and then move it to whatever lifestyle you choose to have. And we're going to talk about that in a minute, about what your goals and dreams are and what you expanded. a positive environment to be able to create is, as being a biologist, you know, there's that petri dish and saline solution is the one place that you can develop a lot of stuff, right? Good and evil. And our group, our founding group, is made up of people that from different walks of lives, men, women. We all possess one tool. There's one asset we all have that everyone in the group and everyone that is listening to this plays even. And what is the number one asset of an entrepreneur?
It's their creativity and their mind.
Time.
Oh.
We all play even, don't we? You get 24 hours, I get 24 hours. I've been talking to some people this last month, and I learned more about people developing their time. And I'll give you, for instance, Sebastian, if you take your business and you take your business from top to bottom, from most profitable to least profitable, and assess where you put your time in. Are you putting your time in where you can get the best results? And are you putting your time in where you're going to develop results? And are you putting your time in where you're not going to develop results? And choosing how to schedule your most valuable asset, which is time. The second asset of an entrepreneur is nothing begins until something is sold. If you're not going to open a door, the door is never going to be opened. Am I right? And what you talk about fear and anxiety and, oh my God, I can't do it. And nobody in my family has ever done it. Nobody on my block's ever done it. And my friends say I'm stupid and crazy for doing it. And you open that door and nothing begins until something is sold. And you have to sell yourself on wanting your success. And then creativity is the third tool of entrepreneurialism. Because creativity is something that's, oh gee, it's taken away from us so quickly. It sounds like you were very lucky in a much better environment than most, Sebastian, growing up. But when you go to school, they tell you to sit in a certain place, use a certain pen, pencil, write a certain way, sing a certain song a certain way. You learn to be part of a group instead of being an individual. And as an entrepreneur, you get to develop your independence. You get to develop your individuality. You get to be as special as God wanted you to be. And you are. And it might take a person years to develop it. Somebody says, well, Errol, you know, I'm 30 years old now. I've got too much behind me. The richest man in the world that financed Napoleon Hill to write the book Think and Grow Rich didn't make his fortune till after he was 40 years old. He was working as a telegraph operator, and through the wires came that there was going to be this opportunity for investment in a kind of train car called the Pullman car that was going to allow people to take journeys from one side of the United States to the other by train and sleep aboard the train comfortably. They would have a bedroom place called the Pullman car. And he invested in this and made his fortune. And then from there, he found out, well, you know what people are going to need to build this infrastructure of America? They're going to need steel. And he got into the steel business. And at the turn of the century, the 1900s, He owned one of the largest companies in the world, U.S. Steel, United States Steel, and he sold his business for $100 million. And that was in 1900s. Could you imagine what that's worth? Trillions.
With inflation, that number was astronomical.
That was worth trillions today. This is a man that at 40 years old was working for a salary, punching out messages for Union Express. Interesting story, but our books are full of thousands of them. But a lot of people are trying to teach people that you have to be a millionaire and a billionaire to be successful. And that's not true, is it, Sebastian?
No, not at all.
You just have to create your own journey. And what you have helped me and the group has helped me understand entrepreneurialism. The first stage of entrepreneurialism is transition, where we transition from being dependent on a job or a salary or somebody else's dream to becoming independent. And there's a lot of the why that goes in there. There's a lot of psychology that happens at this stage, and a lot of doubt.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And doubt is probably our biggest enemy. And it also is our greatest contributor, because if we doubt, we should question. And why is the other guy, and it comes in, why is the other guy successful and I'm not? What's he got that I don't have? And the truth is, when we analyze it right down to the bottom, nothing. You have all the tools, you've always had them. It's whether you'll use them or not. It's whether you'll use them or not. And if they give you a paint by the numbers, you can paint a painting. It might not be beautiful, but if you paint by the numbers, you can paint a painting. Eventually, you don't need the numbers. Am I right, Sebastian? Eventually, you can stand on your own. And we're about independence. We're about developing independence. We're about finding a better way to do things. And as I get the opportunity to speak to every one of our members, I find what they're doing, and I'm able to help them with maybe creativity, or just help you examine what it is that you want to achieve and accomplish, and set you off on your own goal. In other words, there are times, Sebastian, that we fall off track. And there are times that we want to choose to be off track. And I would rather have you choosing than finding yourself falling. Make sense to you?
Yes.
And when you're off track, there should be a way to get you back on track. And that is what the Entrepreneurial Development Institute is all about. And that is about your journey and finding when you're utilizing your plan and when you're not utilizing your plan. And it's very simple, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And when did you come to the when did you come to the thinking that you can achieve whatever it is that you want?
And I guess it started with Think and Grow Rich, with simply saying to myself, I don't know what is possible, and nobody else can tell me, let me give it a try. So I guess, when we're talking about, having family or peer group, when they're saying, oh, it's not possible. Well, right now, I always question that statement. Is it really impossible? Have there been other people who had done it? If yes, it might be impossible for you, but I don't know it for myself up until I'm gonna try. And there's then the whole world of possibilities awaits when you simply find the tools, resources, and knowledge for how to make it possible, how to improve the possibility of making that possible. Because it's really about limits inside our mind. Well, the moment when you say to yourself, it's impossible, you stopped your brain assessing all of the possibilities of that were happening. But when you ask, well, how? And that's the key, how I can make it possible, then a whole other universe of possibilities awaits in front of you.
Interesting, very, very interesting. And also finding a good environment to work through.
Yes.
And thanks to you and the other members of our group, we have created that environment, have we not?
Yes.
And you're networking and you find help when you need help and you give help when it's asked for.
It's happening naturally, and I think years ago I was very bad at networking. I still remember my first business event when I was simply standing very awkward and not knowing, to who speak or how to speak. And right now it comes naturally, and you have to really go out of your comfort zone, and especially if it's uncomfortable, go out. Speak with people. They don't bite. They are amazing people, and they've created wonderful things, and you learn. You learn a lot. And you also can contribute to their lives as well.
It's interesting that you said that, because I did a webinar, I think a few webinars back, we talked about dream stealers, didn't we?
Yes.
And you have to be careful, because there are people that if they might be as strong or semi-strong or stronger than you, and they want to tell you that things are not possible. And they don't like you having a positive attitude. You intimidate them by telling them that things are possible. And you can create an environment and have your own life, and I'm going to have everything I want. I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to have a lifestyle I want to have. And people want to take that away from you, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. But that's also because of evolutionary reasons. So when you understand why they're saying this, and it's very easy to diffuse all this, because it's a limitation of the mind. It's not a limitation of possibility. Things are always possible, and just because it's not possible for another person, if you find examples of possibility, that means it's possible. That the reality reflects itself.
I like what you said about before. If somebody else is doing it, then I feel I can do it. And mirroring is the way to develop skills. If I don't have the skills, I find somebody else that has them and watch what they do. And that's my college. I didn't have the opportunity to go to college. My college was in a car, one cassette tape at a time. I went to the University of Automobile, because every time I went driving, and it's amazing because I just took a road trip with Ty from Vancouver to California and back, and we listened to books on tape while we drove. So we listened to stories, and not only did we get entertained by the story, but I'm wanting to write these syllabuses. And so by listening to the way the writer writes the story, I learn new writing skills. And I learn how he introduces a character, how he introduces a plot, how he introduces a storyline. And and it's helping me in writing our educational program. There's a lot of people out there that will give you false information now, and you really have to be careful, don't you?
Oh yes, well, but there are techniques, well, to verify those, and it's not difficult to learn it, because, and especially when people are saying, well, they're the only source of information. Information tends to travel. It's never just within one person, and you can find other examples of that information. You know, whenever it's, well, business, entrepreneurship, you know, skills, and you see things from a different perspectives, and when you see it from multiple angles, it crystallizes inside your mind. So yes, there is, well, plenty of misinformation, but that's where you do your research, where you.
Well, the funny thing you just talked about is input. Mm-hmm. is getting into an environment where you get input. I think one of the things that when I find a teacher or an instructor that is more about themselves, I did this, I did that, I'm so good, mm-hmm. I tend to listen to what they have to say, but not respect them. Mm-hmm. Because also what I've learned in my career is it's the message, not the messenger.
Yes.
You know, it doesn't really matter who I am, but if Errol provides a good message, mm-hmm. that you can use my tools. Mm-hmm. And I really am hoping that between our group, our entrepreneurial group that we've put together here, that we create a message that is easy to understand, easy to digest, and easy to utilize to fulfill your own dreams. Because the truth is, and I think you know this about me, your success, Sebastian, is my reward. And the more successful you become, the happier I am for you.
It's something I also found, you know, that when you see people progressing, it's extremely rewarding. You know, this is where it really fills you with happiness, because you can see the transition. You can see, well, what was, what's happening, and what is gonna be. And it's beautiful seeing people progressing on a different, higher level of understanding.
Well, you know, the interesting thing is that there are some simple skills that you can learn. Mm-hmm. I'll give you, for instance, today you just talked about public speaking, and yes. You talked about how fearful you were of it. And I remember, you know, when you did your first video, and you said you were shaking in your boots when you did it, and yet you did a good job. You did a very good job. And a lot of times it's overcoming these little steps, these little fears. And when you overcome them, then possibility starts opening up. Mm-hmm. And for many of us that are listening, these are skills that you might say, well, I don't think I have them. It's not true. Because anything you practice, you'll get better at.
Yes.
I don't care what it is. If you want to play guitar, if you spend 4 or 5 hours a day practicing, or an hour a day or 2 hours a day, you'll get better. Mm-hmm. I love 2 games that I play that are very much like life. One of them is chess, which is very much like life, because if you're a pawn, you're a very low piece of material. But if you can move 7 steps without getting killed, you become the most powerful piece on the chessboard. And golf. And the reason I like golf so much is 1 inch can make the difference between a good shot and a bad shot. And it takes time, practice, and precision to be better at golf. And it's one of the most popular played sports in the world. And yet, 90% of golfers never break 100. They shoot over 100. 90%. Of that 90%, 10% break 80. And of that 10%, 1% break 70. Shoot 79 to 70. And then 1/10 of 1% shoot underneath par. In other words, if par on the golf course is 72 shots, they shoot 71 or better. And I've been privileged to be part of that 1/10 of 1%. But when I started, I was horrible. I was horrible. You couldn't find my golf balls. I would hit them so badly. Our facilitator, Ty, is in the 1 percentile now of golfers. He has shot under 80 twice in his 1-year career of playing golf. So limitations can be broken, and the time span in which you create success is at your pace. Am I right, Sebastian?
Yes.
And the idea behind it is basic skills can be taught and can be learned. And when I go to an analysis, when you have a difficult time and we analyze it, the solution is normally pretty simple, isn't it? Yes. What would be the hardest thing that you've encountered in developing your entrepreneurial?
I guess it was limiting beliefs. The most, it's breaking what ruled my own patterns. Thinking what is possible. So the most difficult thing, it wasn't the thing itself. It was I thinking about the thing. So it was my perception of the event or situation happening. It wasn't the situation itself. And even more when I observe it right now, the events what I felt were dramatic or difficult are quite normal right now. But they weren't normal when it happened. You have to break out of your fears. You have to understand them, and you have to not be afraid to make mistakes.
Can I ask you, if I know it's not fun to elaborate your fears, but if you could elaborate on your fears and when you felt that you broke out of them, and all of a sudden you stepped into the light, so to speak. And I'm trying to be metaphorical, but where other people will understand it, maybe give some instances in your life and your entrepreneurial career as what happened, when it happened, and what the results were.
So I guess it comes to my communication. I am naturally an extremely shy person, and one of my limiting things was that I was afraid to communicate. I was literally afraid to speaking with people, and I decided I do have to do something about it. And the most logical choice was going on a public speaking course. And first of all, it lasted 5 days. And also it was a very safe environment. So when you're going through public speaking course, well, you learn how to speak in front of an audience, but you also learn how to increase your confidence levels. So I went from this small shy boy with very low voice to someone who right now is not afraid to speaking with people, and it was painful. You know, those 5 days were painful. There's a lot that had changed. But if I compare myself, well, before the course and after the course, the change is dramatic. And
what would you say was the biggest factor?
The biggest factor is being in a safe environment when you're changing, when you're transitioning, you know, with your own psychology. So if it wasn't a safe environment, when you're making that transition, you would go back to your previous patterns. But when you are in a safe environment and you're allowed to transition, because it will be a change, it will require sacrifices, and it will require you thinking in different way in both yourself and others. If you have that safe environment, you can move and transition to another level. I think, well, that's a very, very important factor.
Now, when you said you were a shy person, and I'm digging into this because I bet there are people out there that, you know, have had the same issues you have. Mm-hmm. And by you sharing, what do you think created that? Why did you become a shy person?
So it was partially because of comparison. Also because of the environment itself, and most of it because my own way of thinking about myself, about what I'm capable of. So the moment when you do always have a perception of yourself, and that might be positive, negative, neutral, you know, different ways for how you perceive yourself. And those kind of beliefs can be very limiting. So when you say to yourself, well, I cannot do X, Y, and Z, that's not the question. How I can acquire skills to be better at X, Y, and Z. So my limiting belief was I cannot communicate and speak with people. And that will trigger a certain behavior, when I was afraid to speak in groups, speak in front of others, and those situations had intimidated me. But also because you know that's not the end of this. So you think about, right, I know what is the problem, what is the solution? Because the first part, you need to be aware that there is a problem, and there is something that you want to improve in yourself. And then the next question is, well, how I can do it? Are the environments, are the causes, are there people that can help me with that transitioning? And I was very fortunate enough that I've met some really good people, and they introduced me to public speaking, and since then the level of shyness that I had just dropped significantly. The world is a much different place.
Well, you certainly aren't shy today.
No,
and also you're changing other people's lives today now too, aren't you?
I hope so, because it's about the message itself. Well, information tends to travel through people, and we're holders of it. So you find the information that can help other people to grow, and if it helps them on their journey, bless them, because well, then at some point in time they will be able to help other people. The one I remember a conversation with one of my previous mentors. Her name is Catherine, and I said to her, well, Catherine, how can I repay you? I will never be able to repay you, you know, the things that you taught me. And she said, well, Sebastian, you don't have to repay me anything. Pass it on. And that was the single, I think, most important lesson that I've learned. That you learn to pass it on so that the other people can pass it on as well.
Which is exactly what our goal is here at the Entrepreneurial Development Institute, is it not?
Yes, yes.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not a member, I would like to urge you to become a member and to be part of our journey and to help yourself and to help others while you help yourself. Would you encourage people to join, become part of our journey?
Absolutely, because one thing to remember is that this is safe environment for to grow, and there's a lot of information that is very difficult to find on your own. You have already great positive people here. Let us help you. Let us give you the resources for that will make this journey easier. There's still going to be sacrifices, but there is a support available. And let us help you so you can help yourself and others as well.
Now, I don't want to sound condescending and sound like I'm your guru, because I'm not. I'm your friend, and I think you know that. But I want to say this publicly. I'm very proud of you, because I know where you've come from when we met, and I know where you are today. I'm very proud of you, and I know you're well on your way to your journey of succeeding in what you want to do.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you for being part of this today. I would like to thank Sebastian for sharing from his heart, which is the only place you're ever going to find from this guy. He is really a wonderful individual. And Sebastian, you know I wish you all the success. Your success is my reward. I would like to thank Carl, who has been very instrumental in introducing the Entrepreneurial Development Institute to people. We're about 60 strong, and we're in 22 different countries. Isn't that amazing, Sebastian?
I think, well, also looking, what's going to happen, it's going to be even more amazing, because we're talking about potentially changing the whole world, through people, by giving them the skills that they'll need to change their environment. And if they can pass it on, that just makes miracles.
And what I'm talking about is a complete plan. And again, it's my dream. And my dream is to create an environment in which we can flourish. And some of us will become teachers of the environment and will teach and become certified teachers of the syllabus. And it will become a financial opportunity for them. And will train and develop. There was a man that said, "Give me a generation of people and I'll rule the world." And he came very close. And had he succeeded, we'd be speaking German today.
Yes.
Now, we have a much more positive approach to teach children to be entrepreneurs and be independent for themselves and give them skills and guidance that they don't get in school. No. And we as entrepreneurs want to teach that for free. And that's our overall goal. That's what we want to accomplish. And I'm writing a book right now, another book called Changing the World One Entrepreneur at a Time. Because by creating an environment in which people like Sebastian can do his work, I have no idea how many people Sebastian will touch. It could be millions. I work with one entrepreneur and he could change the world. I have no idea what Sebastian will do. That's the beautiful thing about it, because I don't believe in limitations and it's unlimited. Between Carl and Sebastian, can you imagine? I can't even imagine how many people the message that we put out together as a team here is going to touch. Each month we do a webinar. You're welcome to attend them. They're free. And each month we invite people to join our limited group of 100. When we hit 100, we'll close it off. because I like to speak personally to each one of our people and do a webinar once a month. For you to find out more about us, you can certainly go to YouTube and punch up Errol Abramson. And anybody that is in the group, we invite you and hope that you will refer people to us, which if you feel you're getting good benefit, then share it with others. And I would like to leave you with this message. There is no magic in small dreams, and you have the skills and ability to achieve any level you want to in your life. The level of entrepreneurialism goes from transition to lifestyle development to scaling to as big a business as you want to have. And we have these skills and abilities and track record, which a lot of these people that are out there on the internet say, follow my program, and they've never done anything other than their program. We have the background of over 47 businesses, over 50 years, and $8 billion a year in revenue that we can share with people and be able to help people develop their businesses. Thank you, Sebastian, for being part of our environment. I really appreciate you, and I welcome your continued success. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for attending us. We'll be up next month, and there'll be plenty of time that we'll promote it. And again, we'll have another guest from our entrepreneurial group. We've had such tremendous successes, and I want to share each and every one of them with you. Again, Sebastian, God bless you. Thank you for your journey, and thank you for your input. Bye, ladies and gentlemen.